Okay, so in this video, we're actually going to talk about the new modern SharePoint translation service. Here I am with a user that has English as their preferred language, and I can go through the site as a standard English speaking user. I can switch over to different languages and have the site flash over within that preferred language. Here I am with another persona. Click on the same link. Notice that because my preferred language is French, it automatically lands me under the French language, and I can still, even as a French-speaking employee, I can switch over to the other languages. In this video, we're going to talk about the modern translation service. Let's get started. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to do, we're going to talk about the new modern translation and the modern SharePoint, and understand that the translation pattern for SharePoint and Office 365 Online has kind of been evolved over the years, right? So if you're dealing with SharePoint on-prem, especially with classic site collections, you're probably looking at variations to where you have like a primary site and then you got sub-sites for all the different languages all stacked in the same site collection. The other option, the other pattern, like I guess most recently when the modern SharePoint came out, and understand that there's a fork in the road, right? So when you go to Office 365, you're going to have the classic SharePoint stack site collection, and then you're going to have the modern SharePoint stack site collection. On the classic side, that's where you have like publishing enabled, and then you have like project site templates and team site templates, so on and so forth. All the classic things that we've been working with 2019 and beyond, right? With the modern stack, you only have two options, right? So you have if I go here, if you look at my screen, if I go create site, I only have these two options out of the box, the team site and then the communication site. Understanding that the team site comes with those Microsoft 365 groups, because now you have that new concept in addition to your SharePoint groups, these Microsoft 365 groups that kind of plug into other applications within SharePoint. Now, this modern translation, now both of these, even on the modern side and the classic side of the house, you're going to get a translation pattern to where unlike variations on-prem and where you had to install the language packs and all this other good stuff, when you go to set one of these up, you're going to have the language pack already installed. So let's just go ahead and call this one, let's just call it payroll. Okay, so what we have here, we have a payroll site that's going to live on the HR. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and change the site address. This is one as a SharePoint admin. And actually, I want to do a whole series on SharePoint administration, because as a SharePoint admin, it's a good idea to have prefixes on your URLs, because everything's flat and you're going to get site collections generated in many different scenarios. So where you can control it, you definitely want to have prefixes. They're just going to help you with searching and finding things. Now, as far as languages, you would notice that all my language packs are already installed. So for every site collection you create in SharePoint Online, your language packs are going to be installed for the ones that Microsoft support, and you're going to be ready to rock and roll. But for this new one, I'm going to actually leave it English, even though what we're going to do, we're actually going to do translation for multiple languages in the same site collection, right? So if you're looking at the number 2 pattern, is you're still going to have like a preferred language per site collection, and then you're going to have like these supported languages. And there's not really a really good story when you say supported languages, right? Because even if you say, okay, my primary language for this site is French, but we also support English and Spanish, when you're creating that content, there's no way for you to create multiple languages. I mean, I guess you can create a doc or have multiple documents with different languages in the same library. I guess you can create pages with multiple languages for the same site. But from a user perspective, there's no way for that experience to be seamless. Like you almost have to set up a journey within your site to say, okay, here's the French version, and you have navigation to where everyone sees all your options. They click on that, and then you're surfacing up all the French versions of those sites, those documents that, you have to be pretty intentional with it. And from a content management perspective, it's a lot of heavy lifting. But with this new translation service, the modern translation services, you're going to see that when you say supported languages, you're actually going to see a lot more, a real system to kind of help make that happen. So what we're going to do here, we're going to go ahead and select English. And now this is going to provision this site. And I'm going to go ahead and associate it to the hub because I already have a hub for this DJ Tech intranet. And that's a really cool thing about these sites, right? So, with Microsoft recommendation, I was a little weary at first because, going from a site collection with multiple subsites into like this flat pattern or this flat architecture from a site perspective gave me a little angst, right? Because, you kind of felt like, especially from an admin or content manager, a site owner, if you will, you kind of feel like you kind of lose your sites. But the fact that I can associate these to multiple hubs, and you can have multiple hubs within the intranet, there's nothing wrong with that. There's actually a multi-hub strategy that you probably want to take a look at because the hubs dictate a lot, look and feel and things like that as an example. But, navigation and things along those lines. But I love the fact that these are independent. All right, so let's go back to the story at hand. Now, what I want to do, I want to create this payroll site because I have multiple languages that I need to support within my organization. And so the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to just go here under site information and view all site settings and go into the language settings, right? Once I go into the language settings, you would notice that if I say show advanced, this is what you're going to see for team sites, right? So for the SharePoint Modern team site, these are the options that you have. Now, this option I'm going to show you is so far to date is only available for the communication sites, the one where you say, so if I enable this, show translations for multiple languages, this capability to date is only available in communication sites. Now, I don't know if they're going to grow this and make this available with modern team sites or not. Now, once I enable that, notice what happens. Now I get the same language picker that I'm used to, but I can select French. I can also come in here and select Spanish. And not only can I select my languages, but I also can select a translator for that particular language. So I'm going to select Kevin for my French, and I'm going to select, Spanish, and I'm going to select Ramon for my French. And basically what's going to happen, once I save this off, you're going to see a couple of things light up for me. Every time I create a page or a news article, or whatever the case may be, Kevin and Ramon are going to get email notifications saying that there's something new that's available in the primary language that needs to be translated for the language that they're responsible for. Notice this other thing that pops up over here in the corner. I have, you will notice that this says available languages. Right now only saying English, but we selected multiple, right? And I'll show you in a second how to enable those multiple languages. But basically, as an end user, I can actually flip my languages right here on the actual site, right? That's something we had to custom build, especially with variations or even with the number 2 translation pattern where you just got the primary language for it and then you got supported languages. But for here, when you say translate, allow multiple languages for this site collection, and there's a translation service and workflow behind the scenes, you also give the end user the ability to toggle between them, right? So let's do this. I'm gonna just go ahead and show you a couple samples of how to create this. So here I'm going to, let's just change this image real quick. So I'm just go and make a quick change here and change the image, and then I'm gonna go to my org because we got some stock photos that we use in the org. And if you haven't already, I highly recommend enabling the corporate asset library. Maybe I'll shoot a quick video on how to do that with PowerShell. And there's a PowerShell feature that you need PowerShell to enable the feature, but it really centralizes and it help with the corporate branding, right? Because you have a set of logos that you want all your content managers to use. Maybe you got stock photos or photos of the executive team or whoever else, C-suite, whomever else, to where you want to make sure your content managers across the org are being consistent with that personal branding for those individuals. Okay, so here I just made a slight change, and then I'm gonna hit publish, right? And that's gonna make that change. But I forgot, actually, I did miss the key piece. So if I go back into edit, notice this guy here is the translation. This is another feature or a button that gets enabled once we enable multiple languages per site collection. Now I have this option here to say create for all languages. And now what it's going to do is going to set for this particular page, and this is the home page for my payroll site, is going to set up the multiple language buckets for this particular site, right? So now that's done. And now if I hit republish, now my translators should receive an email notification saying that the payroll homepage was updated and now they need to be translated. No? No. Yeah. So these are drafts, but how come I can't see them? Maybe I have to reload. Let's see. There we go. It just took a little bit. All right, so now I can toggle between here. And notice when I'm toggling, this is actually a different version of that same page. So this is the Spanish version. Note in the URL, there's the ES, which is the language code for Spanish. And then if I go to French, you would notice the language code is appended to the URL. And now if I look behind the scenes, so if I go to site contents and look behind the scenes in the pages library, because we know that all articles and pages for this particular site are stored here, they're following a very similar pattern what they're doing with templates, right? If you create a page template and came to the site pages library, you would notice that there's a template directory where all your templates are stored. And this is the same true here. So every page that I send to this translation service is actually going to have those pages there, right? Now, a couple of key things. Now, before I switch, I'm getting ahead to myself. So let's harp on this user experience a little bit. So I've already have this set up for DJ Tech, so that way I can shortcut this video a little bit, because everything after now is just translate each one of those items. Now, notice that when I came to DJ Tech, I had French selected when I was on this page previously within this browser session, and it kept that setting. Now, my preferred language with this particular user is English, but I can come in here and look at all the different languages. Now, even though I don't speak, these may not be my preferred. Maybe I'm just doing the audit to make sure that I see translations. I really can't confirm if these are correct or not, but now I can at least toggle between these guys and take a look. And as you go through, notice another thing that happened. Notice this article here, this Deshaun, I think this says Deshaun again in English. This was a page on this particular site that was translated to one of the other available languages. And what SharePoint is going to do automatically, and these are all the out-of-the-box web parts, is going to automatically to say, oh, the user at the top said they prefer French. So I have, and what it's going to do is evaluating all of these pages within the site and see if they have a French version. If they do, they're going to serve that up even here within the web part that brings in the news articles. So it's something really cool, really cool. And again, you get all of this for free. All of this is out of the box. There's no custom code. There's no custom language mapping. There's no custom web part needed to toggle between languages or any of that. All of these are out of the box, and they're going to do that for you automatically. Okay, so here's another cool thing. So let me switch to persona. This is Raymond. Raymond has a preferred language as French, right? And here I am on the SharePoint homepage or the SharePoint portal, and I'm going to just go ahead to our intranet, and you notice I have the icon to my intranet right there in the suite bar, which is really cool. That it helps with the user experience because, like I said, you got 500,000 site collections that this Office 365 support. You're going to have site collections all over. You only have a small subset that represent your intranet, and it's easy to get lost in the shuffle. Like, okay, how do I direct my users to the intranet each and every time, especially when you plan around with the scenario of the SharePoint portal. Go ahead and drop the logo to your main front door of your intranet right there in the sweep bar, so that way it rides along with your users as you go. Like even in Microsoft Teams in the browser, no, I lied. But if you use, actually I'm surprised that's not there. Teams is weird. Teams, it has like these special powers over their Chrome. But even if I go like to Word Online, that logo is going to be there. I can, within a click of a button, it follows me as I'm going around in Office 365, except for Teams, for whatever reason. So I can easily get back to my main homepage. Okay, back to the story at hand. So I clicked on that logo, and that logo only has one URL embedded inside of it, right? I only reference one URL, and it's going to be the root URL of the site, which is site/djtech. Notice that because of my preferred language, it noticed that it wanted to, it sent me to the French version of the homepage. And that's important. Again, we had to jump through all these hoops with the legacy pattern to find customizations and mappings and how to, redirects and stuff like that, sniffing out their preferred language. And all of this is out of the box, is done for you, right? It really helps with the story. Now, once I have that, it's going to serve up what it can, all the French versions of these pages that are referenced. A lot of these pages are dynamically being surfaced up to me, and I can see them, and I'm able to be ready to rock and roll. All right. And then even though my preferred language is French, you see Anglais, which is English and French. I can toggle through that. So the same capability that I have if my preferred language was English, I still have that. I can, go through those different languages and kind of be curious, even though, I may not be able to understand or read that language, and go from there. All right. That's really it for this video. Just understand that you do have a modern translation system now in Office 365. There are some gaps, right? So one of the gaps is this global navigation here, the hub navigation. This is coming, but as of right now, there's no capability to translate the navigation. You will notice that this local navigation is being translated, but the ones that are translated are the labels that come out of the box from Microsoft, because they have a language pack and they already translated everything that they provide out of the box for you. But and this is where things get confused, right? Because you may see that, and then you may see like pages like I think that may be the translation, but like employee onboarding and event itinerary, those are custom. Those are the ones that I built. And when I go inside of there, so if I switch back over to my manager of the intranet, if I click on edit, I don't have, there's no language drop down, to say here's the English version of this, or here's the French version of this label, here's the Spanish, so on and so forth. I don't have that. Even if I'm switching my languages and modifying that global nav or the local nav, that's the same navigation that's going to be available for all the languages. So that's a gap right now. So I think this is still GA, right? I'm seeing this feature because my organization profile is set to target release, meaning that I get a preview of the features and capabilities. I highly, highly recommend that you have maybe not your production tenant, but your non-production tenant. So at minimum, you want to have two, and definitely have that non-prod set to the target release of early. So I can show you real quick where that's set. So if I go to, let me switch personas real quick. I go to the admin here. And if I go to admin, show all, and then settings, and then org settings, and then organization profile, there's a release preference here. Under this release preference, you're going to have the targeted for select users, or you can have targeted release for everyone. Actually, I want to have this target release for everyone because there's certain new features that you will only see if you have that second option enabled. So I think I was playing around with it. That's why I was on select users. But for production, this is maybe one of those things that you want to take a look at, right? Because in your production, you're going to be set to a standard release, but maybe you want to cherry pick and say, hey, here's a global admin, or here's a SharePoint admin, or here's a power user that always want to be on the bleeding edge. These are the users, when possible, give them the new features and capabilities, but for everyone else, give them the standard release. But for your non-prod, the one that you want to kind of get ahead of the game, because maybe there's a communication plan and all this other stuff, you have to put together for the org a change rollout, get everyone prepared, that new change, especially major changes like the one that's rolling out now, where Stream Classic and Modern Stream, right? So Stream Classic is where everyone's at with the Stream portal. That's being deprecated, and now we're in this transition process for the Modern Stream. Things like that, you want a non-prod environment. So that way, when they come up with like the new video portal for videos, and then maybe the new way of storing rich media, MP4s, MP3s inside of document libraries, you understand what that experience is like out of the box and how it works with some of the out of the box web parts. So for video, it's going to be the embed web part. All right, I know I'm all over the place with this, but I'm trying to keep everything in context. Any little tidbit I see along the way, I want to share that with you. But here, that's the video on the Modern Translation Service. There are some gaps with navigation, so be aware of that. They're looking to fill those gaps, right? But definitely start planning and strategizing of where that makes sense for your organization to have the multiple languages supported with the translation workflow and all this other good stuff inside of a single site collection. All right. Thanks for watching. Any questions? I'll see you in the comments video. Until then, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.